please tell the parents why is not good to leave your child crying in the bed?
Some psychologists, I believe Alan Shore, he said that they almost feel like they're dying because they don't have their wholeness, right? They don't have their mother.
Let's talk a little bit about the postpartum depression. Can you please tell them how to recognize this?
And is there a way to prevent it?
When we become a mother for the first time, we're they say like the baby is born and the mother is born.
And you probably heard, as I did, that when a child cries, it might be manipulatory.
That's big myth out there all over the world. And babies can manipulate. They don't know if they're going to survive, right? It really feels like life or death to them.
I really love the idea of the baby needing to borrow your own brain in order to self-regulate, to soothe.
I think it's such a key message for parents to receive. I think the ways to soothe a baby, the first step is to have some self-awareness.
Părinți CuMinți cu Simona Gherghe și Oana Moraru. Un podcast Zunivers.
Bun găsit! Sunteți la Părinți CuMinți, locul în care învățăm să fim părinți mai buni pentru copiii noștri. Sunt Simona Gherghe, alături de mine, ca de obicei, Oana Moraru, specialist în parenting și educație, autor de cărți, fondator de școală. Mă bucur, Oana, să te revăd. Și invitata noastră de astăzi este Dr. Greer Kirschenbaum, autor de cărți, neurocercetător, doula și specialist în somnul copiilor. Cartea pe care a scris-o Dr. Greer se numește în engleză The Nurture Revolution, în limba română tocmai a fost tradusă, practic e foarte proaspătă în noi, Ioana, am citit-o
în format
PDF, exact, Știința iubirii de părinte. O carte foarte, foarte interesantă care mi-a plăcut foarte mult și aș vrea să le spunem ascultătorilor noștri că pe lângă studiile pe care invitata noastră le-a făcut asupra creierului copilului, în special pentru perioada asta 0-3 ani, vom vorbi și despre depresia postpartum, pentru că Dr. Greer are expertiză în zona aceasta, dar și despre somnul copiilor. Pentru că, cel puțin pentru tinerele mămici, treaba asta cu somnul este una dintre cele mai dificile misiuni și o să vedeți că Dr. Kirschenbaum are o teorie foarte, foarte interesantă și o să o dezvolte la momentul potrivit. So, thank you for coming to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And also to Romania.
Yes, we're so happy to be here.
We just say that we loved your book.
Thank you.
And I would say that the main idea of your book, The Nurture Revolution, is that if you give a child a lot of love and nurture, this can help him become a more balanced and sane adult, right? Is it right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want all parents to take that message from today, from reading the book, that we can't love or protect or give our children too much affection. And I think for a long time, in all different cultures around the world, this message has been put out that we can hold our baby too much, kiss them too much, respond too much, help them too much. And from 0 to 3 years, and probably a little bit beyond, probably a lot more beyond actually, it's really beneficial to sort of just be unconditionally loving and supportive and responsive.
I really love the idea of the baby needing to borrow your own brain in order to self-regulate, to soothe. Could you explain to our listeners a little bit more about this borrowing of the brain of the adult?
Completely. I think it's such a key message for parents to receive, because when parents do receive those messages of don't go to every cry, don't help them all the time, and you can hold them too much, it really puts parents in an uncomfortable place because so much of their intuition is telling them, my baby needs me, the baby's communicating, and the parent feels they need them, but some of these kind of cultural beliefs and myths are getting in the way.
And the rest of the family is
Grandmothers,
criticizing the mom.
grandfathers.
Oh yeah, and in a really, really serious way, right?
Yeah,
and I think
I know.
that comes from some of their own experience too, right? So borrowing the brain is such a key concept for parents to know, because it sort of brings all of this back down to the science and neuroscience that's been discovered in the past 20 years or so. And so it's sort of, instead of it being belief-based or someone's idea, it really comes down to the science. And so parents need to know babies don't have a fully developed brain. Their brain is incredibly immature. And one aspect of that immaturity is they don't have the brain parts to calm themselves down, to self-soothe, to help themselves with their big emotions. And as you mentioned, I always say babies need us. They need to borrow our brains. So we have mature brains. We have fully developed brains as adults and parents. And we can take that part that we have developed and lend it to our babies and help them self-soothe, or help them regulate and help them with those big emotions.
How do we borrow our brain? How do we lend them our brain? Because I know so many moms who are trying to be loving and close to their babies, but inside they feel anxiety as well. Yeah. Is there a good way to soothe the baby and a not so good way to soothe the baby? I think yes, because all moms look loving. But how tight they hold their babies, how much excitement or fear they have inside them, even though it does not show, does the baby feel?
That's great. You asked me so many questions in one.
I think it's the same question.
It's great. So I think the ways to soothe a baby, the first step is to have some self-awareness, right? Because babies actually do pick up on our emotions. Our emotional states are contagious with our babies. And so if we are feeling anxious, if we're worried, our baby will pick up on it. And at the same time, it's not unusual for a mother to feel stressed when her baby's stressed, right? They're stressed, they alert us, we kind of feel stressed, we might feel anxious. And that's sort of invites that term co-regulation, right? Where we regulate each other and we can be there for each other. So in that case, let's say that happens, baby gets stressed, mom's feeling stressed, we want to pick up our baby and know that you don't have to immediately be calm, but you can become calm as you're soothing your baby. And so many of the practices, that we imagine soothing a baby are actually soothing to mom and baby. If we as mothers can kind of feel into the body sensations of it, we'll calm down as our baby's calming down. So I'm moving around right now. So, we're holding our baby probably chest to chest, rocking, singing, humming. All of these things are going to calm our own nervous system down as a mother and our baby at the same time.
Because you mentioned my brain as mother changes for the third time maybe in our lives, right? When we have babies. So we're developing alongside with them, right?
Yes. And it's such an important thing for mothers and fathers too, because fathers change too.
To acknowledge that.
To acknowledge it for so many reasons. So many reasons, right? Let's talk about what you brought up, though.
This is why we are calling it the mom's brain. So what is mom's brain?
Yes. So a brand new study actually came out last week on this, which is exciting. It's kind of showing there's even more interest in this, but it's a really new area of research. The first study that looked at the changes in a mom's brain was in 2016, which is relatively recent for research. But we know that our brains dramatically change when we become mothers. If, during pregnancy and postpartum, they change. For a father, that will happen in the presence of the baby. So it takes 3 or 4 months for a father's brain to change. So we're totally reconstructed. All right, we know our identities change. We know our abilities change. a lot of people are relieved to know that that's a really real thing and that our brains are really, really changing as well. Many, many areas change, but sort of the take-home message is the areas that make us a really good mother or father, those are the areas that are changing the most. So our ability to hear our baby. So, I mean, how many mothers have heard like a phantom cry in the shower?
All the time. Yeah, I know.
Or if you're in a park and
somebody else is
baby's starting crying and all moms are turning around.
And how equipped are we to recognize our baby's cry even in maternity? I mean, in the hospital, like there were 30 babies in the room and I knew exactly when my daughter was crying. I was far away from her because that's how it worked.
Yep.
In the old times, not that old, but we were separated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I could exactly tell when she was crying.
Me too.
Yeah.
Apart from all the other cries. Yeah. How?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Was my brain amazing?
It's amazing. It's your mom's brain.
Superpower.
Absolutely. It's perfectly tuned to your own baby's cry. And we see that reflected whenever we measure that activity too. And your baby is also looking for the sound of your voice. They've been hearing your voice
just to synchronize
for the whole time.
Yeah,
Exactly. And they're going to look for you. They'll pick your voice out. They'll pick your smell out. They'll pick your face out over anyone else too. So you're really already in that really beautiful bond and relationship right from the start. So yeah, we're really tuned to it. I actually, every time my son would fall down, I would get like shooting adrenaline down my legs.
Yeah.
And that will happen now. Any child I see falling down, I get that sensation down my legs. It's very uncomfortable, but I'm like, okay, that's part of my mom brain. So yeah, we're really attuned to hear their cries and to respond to them. So, and that's why it's distressing to mothers when people get in the way, when culture, myth, family members say, there's different types of cries. You don't have to go to all of them, but our biology is telling us, go to your baby, right?
But when they're babies, later on when they're 6 or 7, they do have different cries that don't necessarily need all your attention or your support, right? We're talking now specifically about 0 to 3.
Yeah, absolutely. 0 to 3. I mean, you might need attention, right?
Maybe
the older ones too.
5,
But absolutely. For the babies, unconditional, absolutely. So yeah, it's really, really hardwired into us to do it. The other part is empathy. We have a huge part of our brain that, our empathy gets heightened. So we're really good at something called theory of mind, which is being able to understand how someone else is feeling in our presence. We're really good at that. And, a lot of moms will also say, like, I can't watch scary movies anymore. I can't see scary things or violent things. And a lot of that is like we're really sensitive to the experiences, the emotional experiences of others and our babies, right, as well. So those are some of the big ones that happen to us.
Changes.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the infant's brain. As you said, it is not well developed in the first months of his life. And you probably heard, as I did, that when a child cries, it might be manipulatory, He's not crying because he needs something. He wants to be held.
Yes.
Don't touch him. Let it cry there.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's big myth out there all over the world. And babies can manipulate. They absolutely can't.
They don't have strategies, all right?
They have no strategies to manipulate. They're really communicating their very, very basic needs. And, the most wired up part of their brain at birth is their brain that takes care of their survival. And so all of their cries, all of their communication is for survival, right? And one of their really basic needs is to be close. And this is really misunderstood in a lot of places too. So people will say exactly what you said. Oh, you're manipulating. They just want to be held. The truth is they're communicating and they need to be held. The connection to them is just as important as air for survival, air and food and water. They truly, truly need that connection in a really, really important way. And it's extremely stressful for them. If it's not, they don't know if they're going to survive, right? It's really feels like life or death to them.
How about the moms who feel very guilty for not doing this? I've got so many mothers in my school who have like 9 years old, 10 years old. We can tell a little bit about the difference between the kids.
Yeah.
Like they're like not very attuned to the other feelings. And moms feel really, really guilty for that. And they've been trying all kind of techniques to get that child back again, that childhood that needed touch.
Yeah.
Can you heal from this? The young kid now and yourself?
Yeah, it's such an important question. And luckily the answer is yes. There is a road to recovery. You know, what happens in infancy is extremely important. It will stay in the brain, right? Like that will be there. There will be an imprint there in the emotional system. And you know, there is repair too. So, you know, the best example of this comes from babies who didn't, you know, who really didn't have much emotional care in those early years.
Children.
Yes, exactly. And when those babies were adopted into really loving families, they did have the effects. This is interesting to relate to the story you bring up. They did have those effects of low care in infancy through their childhood, which was, you know, some mental health issues, impulsivity, externalizing behaviors. But as long as those families that had adopted them were extremely nurturing and loving and responsive and built a really close relationship with them, once they went through adolescence, which is another place where the emotional brain is rewired and has a whole area of growth, they left adolescence without those effects.
Oh, great.
Yes. And so it will look like it might not be making a difference in those years, but as long as it's continued through adolescence, kids do okay. Yeah. It just takes a lot of years and a lot of, you know,
and it's important
time.
for the moms to read the book because you've given so many examples about how to really connect. And I love that part when you said that, you know, and this is for all the modern parents, we do all kinds of activities. We are with them in the park. We kind of witness them playing in the sand. But even if we have a whole day of activities, we might not have connected really to them, right?
That's right.
So how is that? Because all parents say, look, I've done this, and I'm taking him or her there and there. But at the end of the day, I felt it myself, and I do feel it still with my adult daughter, that lots of activities does not necessarily mean having connection with your child or your baby.
Absolutely.
So I love the examples in your book about how to really connect.
I'm so happy you bring it up. It's such an important lesson for parents to learn, right? And this really was highlighted for me with my own son too. I remember practicing this connection with him and being like, wow, this is actually really hard.
Yes, it is.
It was hard. Yeah. It was intentional. I was like, okay, we're going to do it now. We're going to sit together and connect.
I think it's always hard, like at any age, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, and maybe it won't be as hard for our kids because they experienced it as a baby, and we probably all did to some degree, but maybe not as intentionally as it's happening now. So we really do have to take time through the day, and it doesn't have to be like intensive, right? We don't want any of this stuff to feel like tons of pressure for parents, right?
Connect with my baby.
Exactly. And we don't want people to be staring at their babies all the time. Exactly. We all need breaks too, and we need other things to do. But throughout the day, to take, 5-10 minutes here and there to notice when our baby is alert and wanting to connect, and sort of just pause everything, drop all the distractions, sit with our baby, make eye contact, and see what they do. And so we can kind of enter this communication dance with them. In the research, it's called serve and return. So we sort of just watch our baby and see what they do. They might make a noise, they might make a gesture, and we return. And so if they make a noise, we make a noise. If they make a movement, we make a movement. And if they look away, we give them a break, right? We don't have to get in their face and give them a break. But it's miraculous and beautiful to see even like extremely young babies doing this. When I was a birth doula, I would teach people to do this in the hospital, like a few
When they were
minutes after the baby was born. The babies can communicate immediately. And then when I sort of meet other babies and I do it with them too, their parents are like, "Whoa, what is this? This baby can talk? What's happening?" So it might sound like, "Oh yeah, I already do that. Like you said, I go to music class. We make breakfast together. We do all these things." But this serve and return, and I call it baby chats, and in my book, it's a really deliberate and specific way of communicating. Then it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Well, we give them a lot of love and nurture, but how can we prepare them for the separation? Because they are going to the kindergarten, then to the school, and how can we prepare ourselves for the separation? Because it's a lot of suffering also in our
Physical
souls.
suffering, yes.
Oh yeah, it's really, really tough.
How
it's
did
really
you do
tough.
it with your son?
So with my son, I started going to work part-time when he was about 8 months old. And I had a nanny come to our house as he was really little. I was lucky enough that I worked from home on my computer. So we did a really gentle introduction. So the person came over. I spent a few days, all of us together, when I would sort of leave the room, get something for a few minutes and come back. You know, the idea with that is to build a relationship between my son and the caregiver. And so he could see that we were friends, I liked her, we laughed together, we connected, we were getting to know each other. And because our babies are always looking to us for safety. So in this kind of setup, he would be like, "Okay, my mom's comfortable. I can see her body language. I can see she likes them." And so we started with that. And then that led to just longer periods of me going off and working. Nanny would still bring him in to breastfeed. So that was still happening. And I think I was still putting him down for naps in the beginning as well. And then eventually he would fall in love. So we had a couple people, the first one person and another person, but he really fell in love with them. They would come into the house and he would just jump into his stroller. He was like, "Take me to the park. I know I love you. I want to have fun with you." And that's how I saw it, right? She was another, loving person in his life.
Another safe attachment, secure attachment.
Exactly. And you bring up the mom's feelings too, right?
Yes.
Whenever I talk about this, people are like, "Were you so jealous?" And there's definitely those feelings, right? I think one of the big feelings as mothers we need to learn is to feel many feelings at once. And that was one of my big lessons in that, I do feel the jealousy, but I also feel so joyful and so lucky that he has this other loving person she was speaking a different language to him. She was speaking Spanish to him. She was playing different music, dancing differently, reading different books. And that's so enriching and wonderful. And there could be guilt, right? There can be guilt from moms. I kind of understood that it was a gift to have multiple people. Which was really nice, but I know a lot of moms have to kind of come to terms with that too, right? We don't have to do it all by ourselves, whether we're going back to work or not. It's totally fantastic to have help from family or
if
not.
If we don't have, because there are a lot of cases that mothers don't get help, even from their husbands.
Yep. Yes.
And they are exhausted, they are tired, they are stressed.
Yes. And I want all parents to know, especially those parents, that one person was never meant to take care of a baby. So if you are doing it on your own, know that because it feels so hard, it is really, really hard, if not impossible, to do it with no breaks. It's really hard. And that was mainly my experience too, because I did have, help when I went back to work, but I never took time for myself. I would go fully taking care of the baby on my computer, back to the baby. I never had a break. I never went to exercise or take a walk or read or, So I felt that too. I was really, really overburdened. And, realistically, in the perfect world, there would be almost 3 people taking care of a baby. At one point in my life, it was me, my husband, and my mom all together. My husband was on a break from work.
And it was
heaven. It was like one person was cooking or cleaning, one person was with the baby, and one person got a break. Because even with two, right, even if dad is really involved, mom and dad are going to be really burnt out, right? And even if dad's at work all the time and mom's at home with the baby, still nobody's getting a break, right? So it's super hard. It's super hard.
I have a curiosity. There's more and more kids who kind of have a particular, sensitivity. They don't like to be touched so much, and the parents feel guilty. I mean, babies. How about them? What's up with them? Are they born like this? Or what does science say about it? Because many parents say, look, I want to hug my baby, but it feels like I trigger some kind of, response.
Interesting. Do you see that in children or babies?
In children. I don't know what happened in their first 2 or 3 years. I see they have loving parents and connected and emotional. Yep. But they don't like being touched. They don't like being others being in their space. They are oversensitive with their clothing. They don't need. I do not talk about neurodivergent, like obvious kids. Just regular kids who do not like people getting in their space so much, and not even parents' hugs.
There's just two things that I'm thinking of. So one is if a baby doesn't receive a lot of touch as a baby in those first 3 years, then they will not like touch as they grow up. It becomes aversive and overstimulating because they aren't used to it. And so, again, like no judgment on parents whose babies didn't receive a lot of touch. We're given all these products to put babies in that really lower the amount of touch, right? Like the bassinets and swings and, strollers, all this kind of stuff. So for people who that happened to, totally understandable. But for people who haven't had a baby or still have a baby, use a baby carrier, touch your baby a lot. Babies love it. Baby massage is fantastic. It's really, really, really good for the baby's brain to do a lot of touch. But that is one reason. The other reason could be the type of touch that is being received. So I know I have somebody in my life with similar experience, and their parents did a lot of investigation into it because they were upset that they couldn't, their child didn't like hugging. And it actually had turned out they worked with, I think, an occupational therapist who discovered that the child did not like light touch the way we would normally hug, but they really liked really deep pressure. So the person I know said that she had to hug her son so tight, like tighter than she would ever thought would be comfortable, but that's what he preferred and that's what he liked. So that's another reason. And the third would be probably some like neurodiversity. And in that case too, there's a way of investigating what type of interaction does a child like.
But if I have a 1-year-old that seems to be very independent, not wanting my presence so much, do I worry about it? Because I've seen some posts on a mother's group, and everyone was congratulating that lady who was complaining, is there something wrong with my kid? I seem to kind of, get in her space and she doesn't want me there. And all the mothers, good for you, she's independent, just go relax. But should I worry if I have a 1-year-old who does not make eye contact, who does not want me in its space? Yeah.
I mean, I would say probably, again, 2 answers.
Yes.
With an exception. So if, there is like a big range of temperament for children. Some are very exploratory and motor. So if that was the case, and the child still did want to make eye contact at times, did want to have touch at times and come back as a secure, I wouldn't worry about it. But for a child who seems to be sort of avoiding the parent.
And mom already worried, that's a signal.
Avoiding eye contact, avoiding touch, I would definitely look at that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit about the postpartum depression, because I know that there are a lot of pregnant women who are listening to our podcast. And can you please tell them how to recognize this and also their families?
Mm-hmm.
And is there a way to prevent it?
Oh my gosh. I think education is a great way to prevent it. Sort of knowing what to expect, with a baby, in respect to a baby, in respect to the identity change as a mother and the life change and the body changes, and kind of having that idea, talking to a lot of mothers, it can be really helpful, because I think a lot of postpartum depression can come from being really surprised at what happens. It can come from really not having much support at all postpartum and being alone. When we become a mother for the first time, we're sort of, they say like the baby is born and the mother is born. And I think there is like sort of an unconscious expectation of us as mothers that we need to be really loved and cared for. And we're sort of a newborn person too. And we need love, we need care, we need to be fed, and people to be asking how we're doing and really listening and being there for us. And often the case is we're alone. And isolation, that can lead to depression and anxiety. And feeling like a failure is a really big other reason to feel like.
Because it wasn't like we expected to be, maybe?
Maybe. And you know what? Another huge, this is my theory as well, non-mothers and mothers are generally pretty separated in society. And I don't think it used to be this way. I think, when families would see each other a lot more, there'd be, you'd be taking care of your cousins' babies, your friends' babies, all this kind of stuff. A lot of the mothers I've worked with, I'm not sure about Romania, the first baby they ever hold is their own baby.
Yeah.
And so they're like, how do I hold the baby? How do I dress the baby? How do I bathe the baby? Right? Where that, in the past, I think that would have, not been as much of an issue. And so that can lead to kind of feelings of like really questioning everything. And one thing I kind of suggest to people to help with that is to, if you're pregnant, go over to someone's house who has a baby, like find a really good model to watch.
Yeah, just to
quite
get
a
yourself
bit, right? To
prepared
sort of just get familiar a little bit. That's really important. And then the postpartum plan is really important for postpartum mental health struggles too. So, thinking about how you're going to get support, how you're going to get help, who are the people who are really going to be able to love you, and how are they going to show up for you?
But it's important for the families to understand this, because there are some hormonal changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So lots of people feel baby blues when their milk comes in.
I did, yes. I cried as I never cried in my whole life in the first weeks with the babies, with the both babies. And it was like everybody was looking at me. They were quite shocked about this, because I'm not a crying person.
Right. Out of character.
Yeah.
And that's really normal, to be extremely emotional and feeling blue, right? Not depressed,
yes,
but blue,
it's
right?
Something different, yeah.
It is very different. And so if that's, like you said, the first couple weeks postpartum, that is normal. That is normal. So, that happens typically starting when your milk comes in. It can happen when you wean. It can happen when your period comes back for the first time. So those big hormonal surges can lead to that. Postpartum depression lasts a lot longer. We say it's at least a month, if not a little bit longer, and can just be not getting much enjoyment from anything. Right? Your baby, others, having lots of worries and fears, and really feeling, not like yourself, right? And wanting to be separated from the baby, or not feeling good enough, feeling like a failure, these kinds of feelings, not just passing feelings or thoughts, but that they're just overwhelming and over-consuming a person. So it is important for, like you said, for people in the family to know, because when we're in it ourselves, we might not see it, right? And it's great to get support as fast as you can if you're in that situation. Yeah.
And how to make the bond with the child once you wanted to be separated from him.
Yeah. And I think I say it in my book and often to parents too, when you're there to meet your baby, like let's say you've gone through, postpartum depression, and then you've had some treatment and therapy or help, and then you're feeling able and present again. Meeting your baby as if it's the first time, right? And so that, that's like that kind of speaking to the baby that we talked about. It's keeping the baby close, smelling the baby. It's important for parents to know that, moms and dads actually get postpartum depression too. It's not talked about a lot, but it also happens. And the baby actually releases feel-good hormones in us. And so even if we are suffering, having the baby close by, holding the baby for times, feeding the baby,
can heal us.
It's going to heal you over time. Yeah.
I loved the 4 questions. I know everyone is asking you about it, but it's the questions, they're the questions I ask myself even when I'm in the present of my 21 years old. Because all moms, when they see their babies or their big kids, they just analyze them. They just compare them. They just want to fix something about them. And those questions, I had them in my mind, not maybe like that, but I've always asked myself in the presence of my daughter, am I seeing her from all my heart? Do I want to correct something about her? Do I want to adjust something? Because they feel it right away. Yeah. Can you tell our listeners about the 4 questions?
Yes, I love these questions.
They're like a thermometer for how you are really connected to the kid, to the baby.
Completely. So these questions came from psychotherapist Catherine Schlafer. She has a beautiful book as well, based on conversations with Oprah Winfrey and Toni Morrison and Maya Angelou.
And they're a way to check myself, to get myself in check.
Exactly. And so they're a theme throughout the book because I found them so helpful, so powerful. So the first one is, do you see me?
And kids all often, Mommy, look. And I'm like, okay, I see.
Exactly. Imagine you're coming in with the groceries. So you really want to see them. Do you need me to be better in some way?
We always
Am I
do.
enough for you? Or do you need me to be better in some way? That's a huge one, right? And that comes up, that brings up all the criticism and, the sort of things that, we wish for our kids, right? And we kind of have to leave those aside, right? Like, oh, I wish you got ready faster in the morning. I wish you ate all your food or ate all the healthy food.
That's why we have this podcast.
Exactly.
Because everyone wishes something more.
Exactly.
Am I the most important thing to you? So do you look at me as if I'm like someone very important to you?
Yes.
It's that look, like your eyes.
Exactly. And all of them come down to our presence. And I remember leaving science, starting to come into this world of mothers and babies. Someone I worked with, I was like, what's going on with you? How are you doing? And she's like, I'm great. She's like, I'm working on my presence.
Yeah, I know this is about consciousness. Even animals feel that. Even your plant in your room feels
completely
that when you see the plant, they feel it. Like how not... No, we found the 4 questions. They are like 4 questions that really remind you how to stay conscious and not always be in your measuring mind, in your judging mind, which we all do as mothers because we all want to correct. Lace your shoes, you got too thin, you look tired, what did you do in school? They hate that.
Now you should wear your hair like this.
Yeah. Even my mom, if she makes some comment about my looks at my age, I'm very pissed with her. Just take me as I am.
Yes. We want to be able to just rest, right?
I just want to look tired today. Don't judge me.
And my mom always asks me about if I ate.
Yeah, my mom too. Did you eat enough?
Yes.
No.
Oh my goodness, yes. It spans, the whole lifespan, right? Us as adult children, we want the same things. And we ask these questions of each other, too, of all the people in our lives.
I'm already listening to all the Romanians whispers now, like, who are obviously going to ask us and comment on our podcast, like, how much love do you give them? Aren't these children today too soft, too snowflaked,
And also too spoiled.
too much loved and spoiled? When is this enough? Don't they get enough love?
Yeah.
So what would you answer them? Because
I would say spoil your baby with love for those
the
first
baby,
3 years.
Yes.
Absolutely. But even with the baby stage and beyond, also having limits and boundaries, right? I talk about that in the book as well. Like, we need to keep our babies safe and healthy, and social, right? So it's not, this parenting style is really not about the kid being in charge or the kid being out of control. We want to, always be a safe person for them, no matter what, always be a source of love for them, and also be kind while we're giving boundaries too, and guidance. Absolutely.
But are you ever being angry?
I think it's
around your child?
Yeah, I think it's important to be very human around our children, right? And we don't want to scare them with our anger. Of course. We will sometimes, right? All of us will. We are humans. But there is always repair too, right? And actually our children need to see us as humans and need to experience some of that repair to build their, social skills and things like that too. So such a good question because, none of it's about being fake. It's not about like brewing with anger inside and like pretending to smile. I'm always calm. Absolutely not. Like really being honest.
And they feel it.
And they know, exactly. They know you're lying. They know something's happening. And so you can, if something's making you angry, you can say it, right? And I'm like, I'm feeling really big feelings right now. I'm feeling some anger right now. Not blaming them, right? Even if they've done something to make you angry, you can't be like, you made me feel angry, right? That's not a responsible way to deal with emotions or to teach them to, right? Because really, they've done something and we're feeling angry. So it's a bit different, right? So we can say to them, okay, this just happened. I have huge feelings inside me right now. I'm feeling very angry. I'm going to take a minute, right? So we want to make sure that we can model that for them and show them, we can anger. We don't have to be afraid of anger. We're all going to feel angry all the time throughout our lives. And I can have emotions like anger and I don't have to hurt you with them and I don't have to hurt myself, right? I can be an adult and have feelings. And so many of us, weren't shown that. It's very new. But it's a way of, going forward in a healthy way with it. Yeah.
And another thing I might add, if I want, when parents have two children and they're very young, one is 3 years old and the other one is just 1, most parents start to believe that the 3-year-old is the old kid. And they put so much pressure on that 3-year-old to be the grown-up of the family. Yeah. So I think this book is so important for those parents who are frustrated that the 3-year-old does not understand to be quiet and nice with a little brother.
Yes.
When you don't have the brain parts when you're 3.
Yeah.
To understand to love your brother or sister, right?
Absolutely. People ask me that all the time, right? And it's, they're like, should I wait till one of my kids is 3 before I have the next kid, or 2, I guess.
3 is not enough, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? People have twins, right? So knowing if you're going to have 2 babies under 3, just know you're going to have 2 babies.
Yes.
Right?
I was there, so I have made the same mistakes. Yes,
old. No.
But because I was very tired, I wasn't having so much patience with both of them because Vlad was crying
and
Anna also was crying. Yes, but she wanted so much attention from me, and I couldn't.
Yes, sure, you couldn't.
Them. Both of them. Yeah.
But at least you don't have to have the expectation that the 3-year-old is old enough.
Yes.
No, we have this situation. The little one, Vlad, is doing almost the same activities like Anna because we are always together. We can't part between 2 ages. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, the little one usually
grows
faster. Does everything faster. Yeah, absolutely.
Faster,
absolutely. And you're going to have two kids crying. That happens to everybody.
Let's talk a little bit about the children's sleep, because you're also an expert on this. What do you think about sleep training? It's a very controversial method.
Yes.
Even the kindest ones are controversial.
Yes. All very, very, very controversial. So I'll tell a story of how I keep trying to figure out when I learned about sleep training and what. The first time, I think, was when I was young and I was babysitting. And I think I was probably, in my early teens. And the parent said, when you put our baby to sleep, you just put him in the crib and walk out, and like he might cry or whatever, but it's fine, just leave him. And I remember I did that and I was like, this feels terrible. I don't like this. So I went back in and I rocked the baby to sleep and put him down to sleep in the crib. And when they came home, I was like, it was so much easier. I just helped them fall asleep. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I think that was the first time I ever kind of came close to it. But then the next time when I really stared it in the face was this period where I was transitioning out of science, out of academia, and starting to, train as a doula and train to work with families. And tons of my friends were having babies. All my best friends, had newborns, and I guess they started telling me about it. And for me, coming from the neuroscience background, it was very alarming to me. Very, very alarming to me for so many reasons. And I talk about a bunch in the book, but mainly when a baby is left to cry, and we can talk about the gentle variations too, because I don't see any difference in terms of like brain mechanisms. I don't see any difference between a gentle sleep training or an extinction.
The gentle one
kind
being
of sleep training.
when you just sit next to them but do not touch them.
Yes. Yeah.
This is even cruel.
Yes.
More cruel.
I think, I don't know, there's no evidence for it, but I think the gentle ones could be more distressing.
Yeah, because you give them double signals. I'm here, but I'm not going to touch you.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But can you please tell the parents
Mixing.
why is not good to leave your child crying in the bed?
Yes,
alone?
Absolutely, yeah. So it was so distressing to me to hear that this was happening, because in those moments, the babies are experiencing very high levels of stress. And so anytime a baby is crying, signaling for their parents, especially at the young ages, and the sleep training is happening at 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, all different times. At all these ages, we said this earlier, that connection, it's like air, right? They need it to survive. And so removing the connection is extremely threatening to a baby. They don't know that we have locks on the door or an alarm system or anything. They think they're left in the wild. They think that they've been abandoned, that no one's there to save them or protect them, and they're screaming for their life.
If
right?
they don't
really
see you,
are.
they don't even know you exist anymore. Yeah.
Exactly.
So they're screaming for your life.
They're so scared. Like you said, they don't know that they're separate from mom for many, many, many months. Some psychologists, I believe Alan Shore, I have to look that up. I think it was him. He said that they almost feel like they're dying because they don't have their wholeness, right? They don't have their mother. So they experience extremely high levels of stress, whether or not that's true. And that puts their developing brain at risk. And so really what happens during sleep training is their brain experiences very high levels of stress. They're in a fight or flight state. So they're crying. Babies will do all kinds of things in the stress state, like bang their heads, grab things, rip things apart, vomit, right? They get extremely upset. But in survival terms, it's not advantageous to keep that going for a very, very long time. Because again, this baby thinks that they've been kind of left alone in the wild. And so the next step of the stress response is to dissociate and freeze and shut down and go to sleep.
And no longer cry, which parents take as a sign of learning.
It's a good child.
No, I've taught him or her.
Yes,
but they're not learning. They're just shut down.
Yes. And so the baby will then associate that very specific environment with when I'm left alone, no one's coming. And so some babies will stop signaling. Not all at all. There was a recent study showing, I think between 25 and 45 days of crying, it would take some babies to eventually stop signaling. And I've been in homes where babies cry to sleep for every single nap and every single bedtime for their whole 3 years, right? For the whole time, or until maybe they can say words. Sometimes parents change it when the baby can start to speak verbally instead of just in cries. And they'll say, "Mom, I need you. What is going on? Come back." And then parents will they won't have the heart for it anymore because they can understand the words, right? So it's important, for parents to know if they've done this, if, this has, been part of it. No judgment whatsoever. This is sort of the norm of baby care spreading around the world.
Yeah.
A lot of parents are told this is the only way your baby's ever going to sleep. It's, you're giving them this gift of lifelong sleep and lifelong health. Those are all total lies, unfortunately.
My generation was tied.
But is there a proper age when we can teach our child, not baby, not toddler, to sleep alone? For instance, my daughter, now she's trying to sleep alone. She has 7. Sometimes she can, sometimes she calls me. But I'm listening to her, to her signals.
It's wonderful. It is totally normal on the developmental trajectory for them to still need some help in the night. And sometimes it comes in waves.
Is it late? 7 years old?
No. I usually see that total sleep independence. It emerges sometimes as early as 6, and sometimes it's up to 8 years old, sometimes even up to 11 years old.
My daughter slept until she was 11.
Yeah,
she's now bored. She has no problem.
But she's living well, right?
Because I took her in my bed when she was 2 weeks, even earlier. I couldn't leave her.
Yeah, and that's the best way to have a daughter is independent and wonderful. When we, the real message is to give that lifelong sleep health. And sleep is so important for health, right? It's so important to have sound sleep. It's so important to feel that sleep is a safe place, right? And so when we do respond, through the baby years, through the childhood years, as you both have, that is the way to really foster it. I did a poll on my Facebook, not scientific. I would love for someone out there to do a real study on this. But I asked the audience, if you were sleep trained as a baby, how is your sleep now? And I saved this so anyone can go and take a look. About 95% of the responses were, I hate sleep. I have insomnia. Sleep's a huge problem for me. I've had, I take sleeping pills or, whatever. And then I said, if you were not sleep trained, what is your sleep like? 95% of the people said, I love sleep. I'm the only person in my life who sleeps.
Yes,
Sleep's my favorite thing.
To feel relaxed.
So that's a very non-scientific kind of way of showing it. But I truly, see that in the families I work with. The parents who are not sleep training, once their kids, around 2.5, 3, they're not totally independent, but they're sleeping without waking or without, being scared. Yeah.
Do you recommend for the young moms to use a pacifier for their babies?
I think it depends.
Does it soothe the children?
Yeah. Using it as a tool, as a sleep aid to help them fall asleep, that's great. It is a bit out of my scope, but most sort of dentists and oral health practitioners, they'll say under 6 months, go for it. But once you get to 6 months, it's time to wean off. Yeah.
We have it in our memory book box, both of them. So we'll keep them. Dr. Gherghe, thank you so much for coming to our podcast. And I'll show again your book, Știința iubirii de părinte, is a title in Romanian. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Liked being here.
So
Repeating
wonderful.
yourself.
Oh my gosh, so wonderful to be here.
Thank you
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oana, mulțumim, vă mulțumim și vouă și ne vedem săptămâna viitoare la Părinți cu Minți.
Zunivers Podcasts.